Georgia 35 points to 5 victory on the weekend. A really pleasing performance, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought the boys were very good. I thought, particularly our scrum, our set piece was very, very strong. But I thought it was a pretty well-rounded game. Lots of things we've targeted. The boys ripped into and was effective. And it was a very, very, as you'd expect, physical game against a big French team.
Yeah, you mentioned that scrum obviously going really well. Took both their props off after half an hour. How important is that to get a platform in big games like that?
Yeah, it's really big, and I think Trevor Woodman's done a great job here building the scrum over a 2 year period, and we're all about stability and setup, and then we've got some really strong dominance this year in a lot of our games. So obviously the French are known for their scrummaging, so I think to do it against them is great, but we'll keep pushing and developing that as we go along. But the boys are certainly bought into what Trevor's set out for them to do.
Yeah, and obviously in the week leading up to that game as well, you mentioned the physicality that Cass would bring. They certainly brought that, but the boys matched that and even bettered it, didn't they?
Yeah, and I think the first half hour of that game was a real battle. There was some massive shots going in both ways, and trying to retain the ball with that level of physicality was difficult for both teams. But I think as the game went on, we managed to get into the game a bit more, execute some of our plays, get a bit of ball in hand, and I thought it was really well managed.
And obviously, over the last few weeks, you've talked about being good in defence, being hard to beat, and then when the opportunities come in attack, taking those opportunities. And that seemed like a good example of that on the weekend, didn't it?
Yeah, I think the boys stood for that on the weekend as they have the last sort of block. So, I think when we're in that position, if we get the other bits right, we're a good team, and we've worked really, really hard on that. And yeah, as you say, for the most part in that game, there's always going to be a few bits we're not happy with that we think we can get better. But I thought they stood up, and I thought their character was great.
And obviously, 4 wins out of 4 now. Moving on in that competition means if we were to make it to the final, every game in the knockout, bar the final, would be here at Kingsholm, which would be huge, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for us, we'll only be focusing on that round 16 for now. Obviously, it's quite a long way away with the break that's coming up. So, there's a few more games for us. We've got another knockout, in the Prem Cup before that. So, from our point of view, it's great that it's at Kingsholm. It's great that we've got another home fixture that the supporters can enjoy. But for now, we've got Sale this weekend, and we know how good Sale are.
Yeah, and just one more on that knockout fixture, such as the format of the competition. It'll be cast here again. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's happened a lot in the Champions Cup as well. It's an interesting format that you can end up playing the same team that you've played in the last round, but there is such a big break until we get to that round 16 game that I think by the time there's a few more games out the way, there's a whole Six Nations on the telly. There's a lot of rugby that will pass before then, and I think it'll feel very fresh by the time we get there.
And moving into this week, then obviously Sale Sharks coming here to Kingsholm. Always a physical encounter, that one, isn't it?
Yeah, we always have very competitive games with Sale. Very, very good team. They've done some really good stuff the last couple of seasons, and obviously made it to the final last year. So they're a really, really tough team to play, really tough team to beat, and very, very physical, very, very strong defensively. So yeah, it's a tough game coming.
I guess a similar sort of style to what Cass brought last week.
Yeah, I mean they're similar in stature for sure. Big men, and they play very, very aggressively. And as I say, they've had a lot of success in playing that way, and they're a good outfit. So, we've got to do our prep well, and we've got to be ready.
And after the last two results, obviously, it's nice to see the boys smiling after the game, obviously picking up 2 wins. And how much confidence can they take from those into this game on the weekend?
Yeah, I think again, I think the biggest thing for us is anchoring back down and getting our identity back, and I think we've done that the last 7 weeks, and I think we've been able to come in and reflect after the game, regardless of the outcome. In did we stand for what we've set out for, and I think they've done that, and I think the last couple of weeks puts us, progresses us in a competition, and for the right reasons, we've gone through, and I think that's important, and I think we acknowledge that, and we want to build on that now.
Yeah, and obviously the last Prem game here at Kingsholm for 2 months. So how motivated are the boys to go out with a bang in front of this crowd?
Yeah, I mean, I think from the point of view, let's say we always love playing here. Every game is important when we play, but even more important at Kingsholm, and it's the last Prem game for a little while, as you say. So every game is massive for us at the moment, but we are aware that there's a break after this, and every opportunity to play here is massive.
Finally, it was announced this week that Val Rapava Ruskins re-signed with the Cherry and Whites. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, obviously it's brilliant news. I mean, it's this hasn't been the first half of the season Val would have wanted because he hasn't featured, but there's a lot of people. Val's one of the best players in the world on his day, and I think in loose heads he's definitely hot property, and there's a lot of people wanted him, and there's a lot of competition for him. And I think his decision to stay here at Gloucester, because he believes in what we're doing and he believes we get the best out of him, and we've got very strong relationships around Val. I think it's a real statement from Val how committed he is to this club, and it's a real statement for the club to how we feel we can push Val on, and ultimately he's the sort of player who we think should and will hopefully be playing internationally as well if we get it right.
Cheers, George.
Cheers.